Today we're talking about Max Verstappen and the Nurburgring again. Well, specifically the man who had the unenviable task of trying to be Max Verstappen, the four-time world champion's instructor. Allow me to introduce you to Andreas Gulden. And, well, it should not be a surprise to literally anyone, but he's German, he's a professional racing driver, he's employed by the Nurburgring, and he actually has, according to a quick internet search, 23 wins in the VLN series, which is the series that races exclusively around the Nurburgring. So in any other context, he'd be a pretty impressive race driver. However, he was tasked with being the one to show four-time world champion Max Verstappen around the Nurburgring. And Gulden was actually very complimentary of Max throughout the entire process, both as a, person and, of course, as a driver. And to that last point, Gulden actually joked around that he was lucky that he was in a normal spec GT4 car, meaning he had about 125 more horsepower than Max. Otherwise, Max would have probably passed him pretty easily. He went on to explain that in the beginning he was giving Max some tips on corner entry, corner exit, how to drive the track, etc. But because it's, Max, and he's nothing if not a quick study, especially in a Porsche GT4 car, by the end of the session they were, to use Andreas's words, fooling around. Now Max did have the advantage as he was on slicks and Andreas, he was on regular tires, and he said he was pushing extremely hard and they were actually having just a really good fun time with it. And it would seem throughout this entire process, no matter who you spoke to, that Max was nothing but cordial. He was a nice guy. He was just another driver really excited at getting a license to race around the Nürburgring. And even though he had to do classroom work, drive with Andreas as his instructor, drive a lower classification of car, and have that lower classification of car nerfed, Max took everything in stride. At no point did he ever approach it from the aspect of, I'm Max Verstappen, I'm the best driver in the world, y'all just need to give me a license and stop making me do this nonsense. He did none of that. He embraced the entirety of the weekend, and for myself, I've never been a huge Max fan, but I gotta give him huge props, and that fandom might be changing after what he did this past weekend. As for Max making another appearance at the Nürburgring, we're not gonna have to wait all that long. September 27th, there's a VLN race at the Nürburgring, and Formula One has an off date. So this means on the 27th of September, Max will be in a full-fledged GT3 car, specifically an Emil Frey Ferrari, and taking part and competing for the overall win at the Nürburgring. And if that wasn't enough to get you excited, just so happens that next year's Nürburgring 24-hour race, it falls on a weekend where Formula One isn't racing. So there's a very, very strong possibility that Max will be competing in next year's Nürburgring 24-hour.